Winning isn't everything, but it's the only thing. In our business, there is no second place. Either you're first or you're last.
It was named after Vince Lombardi. You play in Green Bay. As important as it is to any other team, it means more to us.
When he walked into the meeting, he looked us right in the eye. He said, "Gentlemen, we're going to relentlessly chase perfection."
My first thought was on any play with my arm strength, I may not let anybody know this, but my first thought was home run. On every play. On every play.
He did what? Fires into the end zone. Caught! Touchdown! No!
Welcome back to the Packers Corner. We got it done against the Minnesota Vikings. Huge win for the Packers, giving us a chance not even to just make the playoffs if we get some help, but to control our own destiny here, which just a couple short weeks ago after the rough losses we had to the Bucks and the Giants seemed maybe a little improbable. Couple things went our way, and we took care of business Sunday night on New Year's Eve. It was a heck of a way to rein in the new year here, Dad. How are you feeling after a huge victory like that against the rival Vikings?
I think we should all prepare a very nice Christmas card and sign it, put hearts on it, and send it to Kevin O'Connell, thanking him very much for playing a rookie quarterback in a big game and thinking that for some reason that rookie quarterback was going to come out and play like Tommy Cutlets. But apparently, our defensive coordinator for a day, I think I figured out what happened with him, boys. He went to the George Costanza School of Defensive Coordinating, and he figured out whatever my instinct is, if it's wrong, I have to do the opposite. Do you know what I saw in that game? I saw press coverage. I saw Enigbare sneak up on the right side and fall into coverage, and the free safety Nixon blitzes from the other side. I saw an A-gap blitz from Quay Walker. I saw the balls on the ground and the quarterback in the pocket, not getting out, a la Tommy Cutlets. And for one game, I got to give Matt LaFleur some credit. I don't know what the heck he was thinking, but his way of doing it worked out, and I just think that he told our good old boy Joe Barry to remember George Costanza. That's all I can say, but it sure was a good way to ring in the new year. And if you remember right, we did the same thing last year about the same time of year at Lambeau Field, so that's a pretty good bookend of the year.
He zigged when every fiber of his being was telling him to zag, and maybe we just got to keep that going, and we'll have a heck of a defense if that's all it takes. I think there's hope for that. That's kind of your betting strategy, right, Schmitty?
Yeah, I'm 100% when I do the old zigzag. It works every time. Just don't trust my own brain. Do the very opposite thing, and usually I'm on the right side of it. So I'm glad Joe Barry might have tuned into one of our podcasts from a while ago and said, "Hey, this works for this poor soul. I might do it as well to maybe keep my job." I propositioned this to some of my friends. I said, "Hey, now you get to go to the NFC Championship game, but you've signed a deal with the devil, and Joe Barry is extended for 3 more seasons. You know what? Everyone took the deal, Griffey. You sign this man. You bring him back. He somehow has some competency. There was a bunch of great plays on defense. Uh, we really improve our chances to win a football game if we're able to get to the quarterback, and we did that tenfold. Preston Smith with the strip sack going into the halftime to get us those extra points on that sweet Jaden Reed touchdown. Hopefully he's in the the talks for offensive rookie of the year. Jaden Reed has had an absolute stunner of a season and one that you called out at the beginning of the year. But Griffey, 5 minutes into the third quarter, I said, heck with it. I popped the champagne. I was toasting my wife, who is in absolute misery watching her purple fall to the ground. And I'm just prancing around here, shirt off, sipping champagne, rubbing the bottle against my chest, Griffey. It was a magical scene at my place, just really soaking in this great victory that I certainly wasn't expecting.
Magical seems one way to describe that scene that you're regaling us with. I know one bet we all cashed in on was the first Packers receiver to top 100 yards on the season was, of course, going to be Bull Melton, right? That's something we all had on our bingo cards coming into the year.
Uh,
One thing we were talking about in the office here today, Dad, was the early throw that Jordan Love missed a little bit coming across the field to Bo Melton, and even worse, in my opinion, was the drop by Bo. And you know what? He didn't turn the cold shoulder to him and shun him for the rest of the game. He came right back to him time and time again, and it paid off. As you alluded to, Schmitty, the great game from Jaden Reed. Hopefully he's healthy and back with us here. But how about the decision, Dad, by the Minnesota Vikings to roll out Jaron Hall out there? That seemed to be much to their detriment. What did you think about that decision?
well, as I say, we should send that Christmas card to Kevin O'Connell, who, I have to be honest in my heart of hearts and say, he's the purple coach, so I can't like him, but there really isn't much not to like about his personality. He seems like a stand-up guy. He seems like a player's coach. He treats the media with a lot of respect and each individual that he comes into contact with, but I have no idea. And he's got to have a lot more football acumen than me. But I've seen Nick Mullen play for 6, 7, 8 years in the league. Of course, knowing he's a Southern Miss guy, plays a little bit like Brett Favre, but he is a very competent NFL quarterback. He threw for 400 yards against Detroit and did everything but beat him. I know he had some turnovers there, but I would have put my arm around that young man and I would have said, Nick, you're going to guide us this week against the Packers. You're going to get to face Joe Barry's defense. We just got to cut down on those turnovers. And there's no way in God's green earth I would have put Jaron Hall in that game unless you were trying to lose. And if you're trying to lose, then you should have kept him in the whole game. So, we're happy here, but I think we really got a favor done to us. And we're not going to get that kind of favor against the Bears. We're going to get a team that's going to be committed to running. The Vikings just pretend like they want to run. And we're going to have to shut down the run. We're going to have to play Justin Fields in the pocket, make him beat us from the pocket. And we're going to have to put Jair Alexander on DJ Moore with a safety over the top. And let's just hope that George Costanza is right there in Joe Barry's ear again, or Matt LaFleur, whoever it is, because he certainly did not coordinate the defense this week that he coordinated in New York or against Tampa Bay or against Carolina and any of our other debacles when we had safeties and sitting in Escanaba and the cornerbacks 10 yards off, letting them throw the ball underneath. So it was a beautiful thing to see. And hopefully we get to see it again. And if we do, we got a good chance to be really happy and kind of come full circle on this season. When you think about here's exactly where we were 1 year ago with Aaron Rodgers, and Jordan Love has gotten us back to this spot. And I think, just in closing to these comments here at the moment, that you're seeing a quarterback in Jordan Love who's able to elevate the players around him. And Aaron Rodgers did not get the players around him to elevate last year. He did not connect with them. In many cases, I think he diminished their capabilities, and it's been the opposite with this young quarterback who seems to relate to the kids he's playing with.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth in what you're saying there. And it's sure been fun to watch. That's the thing that stands out the most to me is how much more fun for me personally this year has been to watch than a couple of years in recent history. Maybe I'm showing a little bit of a Jordan Love bias. I couldn't imagine I would ever let that seep through. But I just think this has been an absolute blast to watch these young guys go out there and give it their best shot. And they got a heck of an opportunity here in front of them. So that's awfully exciting. Even Sean Clifford got in the mix here. He ties the all-time lead for completion percentage in the NFL, just like Parker McNamee, our good friend's basketball field goal percentage, both at 100 there. But it's just been a blast watching them this year. I want to go back over a couple of our preseason predictions. You alluded to one of them, Schmitty, which Dad, you also had a prediction about Jaden Reed. My prediction with Jaden Reed was that he would establish himself as our wide receiver one. I think there's maybe a little debate left. We'll see what that looks like in the playoffs potentially here with a full healthy stable. But he's certainly in the mix, and he's had a heck of a rookie season. Your bold prediction, Dad, on Jaden Reed was that he would have a better statistical season than Jackson Smith and Jigba, which he is on pace to do. They're pretty close in yards, both just under the 700-yard mark, but 8 touchdowns to 4 coming into that last week. And I think with Jaden Reed's 2 touchdowns, that puts him at 10 total touchdowns, 8 receiving touchdowns on the year. So to Smith and
Just a
Jigba's
little
4.
injection there. If you think about it, if we had taken Njigba, we would have had Njigba and not Lucas Van Ness and not Luke Musgrave. Instead, we got Lucas Van Ness, Luke Musgrave, and Jaden Reed. A pretty big coup for our general manager rather than moving up to taking Jigba where he was taken in the first round.
No doubt about it. My other bold prediction was Jordan Love beating Aaron Rodgers' numbers in yards, touchdown, and completion percentage. He's got some work to do on the completion percentage. He's about 1 percentage point below the 64% that Rodgers had a year ago. So that's going to be tough for him to pass on that one. But he's got him beat pretty easily in the yards and touchdowns department. So that has been fun to see. We hit on that one too. Schmitty, your bold prediction, in addition to the picking the Bears to win the division, which was pretty bold, was A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones not starting in the second half of the year. Which Aaron Jones looks like he's coming on strong here now. Let's hope that continues. But I didn't think that was the most far-fetched prediction at the time. So it's been fun to watch those. It's also, like I said, just been awfully fun to watch this team. But boy, is it going to put it into the stratosphere if they can get one more done, Schmitty. We'll get into the particulars with the Bears game before too long. But let's just talk about cumulatively what the growth you've seen this season and now the prospects, the potential at being one game away from the postseason.
2 months ago, Griffey, I certainly was asking for Matt LaFleur, Goody, and the entire brass to be looking for their next quarterback, as maybe some other Green Bay Packers fans were. I'm was an absolute yo-yo of emotions with where this franchise was going, and you seemingly had the last 2 months with a couple blunders, the Giants, the Bucks, certainly, but you don't put that on necessarily the offense. Um, and I've been really impressed with the offense's ability to make such a drastic improvement from where they were. Jordan Love, I mean, his head's on a swivel now. I mean, he's getting the ball out a tick faster, which, if you know, in the NFL, I mean, you got 2.5 seconds to make a decision. It looks like he had flashes early in the season. He put that Saints game together. He's had a couple nice moments. I mean, we're talking now, Griffey, 2 months of consistent play out of your quarterback. That's what franchises dream of. And so just to have that, knowing that we have that cornerstone piece going into the next decade, let's say, that's all that you need. I mean, that literally you build around your quarterback, and if you figure that out, the Packers are the only franchise really that have struck maybe 3 times in a row. They build a program like this where they foster in a new kid, and they let him see how a franchise quarterback does it. Not many franchises have that opportunity. We're fortunate enough, and it seems like it's paying off. So the not only are you talking about Jordan and him making other players around him better, and that certainly is the case. How could you not be excited about the performance? I mean, that offensive line on Sunday night, they kept Jordan clean. You had a bunch of wide receivers that are first and second year guys. Bull Melton, for Christ's sake, they just gave him a contract for his performance. Like this is unheard of to get this kind of production. We're the youngest team in the NFL. I've seen enough this year to be very excited about these upcoming seasons. They're really the defensive side of the ball. We spend a lot of capital on it, and you really haven't seen necessarily improvement. If anything, That's still the problem that'll lose you a football game. We've seen that plenty of times already this season. Um, but I think it gets overtaken by just how good number 10 has been.
It's been fun to watch Ten's progression. I know I was pretty high on his potential, even going back to the draft and so forth. And we definitely saw flashes, you're right, in the early season, but it's been the consistency and the high end play without the turnovers down the stretch that have been highly impressive as far as I'm concerned. Since week 11, Jordan Love first in passing touchdowns, first in fewest interceptions, second in Pro Football Focus's grading system. What more can you say from a first-year quarterback? That's unheard of territory, frankly. Additionally, throughout the whole year, early in the season he kind of struggled in a lot of first halves. The team was slow out of the gates. It was almost like they had the training wheels on, and they weren't quite ready to cut Jordan loose. Was how I felt at the time. And the numbers to some extent bear that out because in the second half, even in the first part of the year, he was playing well, and that's continued down the stretch. So in second halves this year, number one in touchdowns, both passing and total, number one in passing yards, and number three in completions. Pretty fun to have that out of our first year guy here. Dad, I want you to talk a little bit about your thoughts on the season coming to a culmination, at least the regular season, and just the progression you've seen from the young guys. And then I got one more point before we get into the Bears that I want to discuss about the decision making of the coaches this week. But let's talk about your cumulative thoughts on the season here, Dad.
I like that direction because I have some thoughts on the season and then on the way Matt LaFleur's management style has worked out. You got to give him credit, but boy, oh boy, I'm not sure how he got there. A little bit like the math problem in school where you got the right answer, but the teacher wanted to see your work and the work didn't quite add up to the answer. But anyway, as far as the season goes, very interesting, gentlemen, that there's a certain symmetry in this season. And you said it. I mean, I think you maybe even a little more than me, but in the preseason, I saw a guy statuesque in the pocket who had pocket presence, who had touch on passes, who had incredible accuracy at times. I also saw him miss some throws, but I just thought this kid, he reminded me of Matt Hasselback, Mr. August, just showing what he had and the potential that was there. I never saw him in a game, even when he was struggling, when we were 2-5. He never quit on any game, and he always finished the second half showing what he had. So I just thought it was there when a lot of people didn't. And it feels good now to see this. And I think you can see it in a microcosm. Look at what's happened. Every time he's had a little hiccup. We had a hiccup against Detroit in the first game, right? He comes back the second game. He and Coach LaFleur look at the film. He gets coached up. LaFleur puts together a great game plan, and we take it to the Lions and show him a lesson. He was so rudely treated by Kansas City in his first game as a pro. He gets a second chance at it, comes around. Steve Spagnuolo thinks he's going to make him look like a nervous Nelly back there. Jordan Love is cool as a cucumber. Those eyes, you see those eyes, guys, on the camera when he's scanning all over the defense, and he taught Kansas City a lesson, and then we got to see it again, just New Year's Eve against the Vikings. That highly aggressive blitzing defense that falls back into cover two. Jordan Love had the answer every single time. You walk to that line of scrimmage, scan the field. It's just like he knew, I'm calling out my protection. That just give me 2 seconds and I'll shred these guys. Did he hardly miss a throw? I mean, he had 260 yards and Dobbs dropped 2 balls that would have been another 50 or 60 yards. They were tough catches. And then he had the miss by our boy Bo Melton that Melton tripped on his feet, and then throw could have been a little bit. I mean, but he had well over 300 yards of catches there, and he had 3 drops. So there's the symmetry. Now we've got one more symmetry to the season. So every time there's been a failure, Jordan Love has come back and shown that he can get it correct. Now we've got the Bears at the beginning of the season and the end. And we all know the Bears, this is their Super Bowl. It's not going to be easy. They're going to come in highly determined. They're going to run the ball down our throats. They're going to make us stop the run. And does Coach LaFleur and Jordan Love have the answers? And that would just put a capper on a season where here we are going to the playoffs. If they don't get it done, it's kind of typical of the season and the yo-yo nature of it, Schmitty. So, we said a month ago that wouldn't it be cool if on New Year's Eve we could sit and watch a meaningful game at the bank where the Packers had a playoff type atmosphere and had to rise to that level and get it done. And they certainly did. And it was just tasty as we said it was going to be. The only thing that took a little edge off of it was, the Vikings coach helped us by playing the wrong quarterback. So we'll see what happens there. And I would submit this, just in summarizing this, that the game we're going to have to play to beat the Bears is going to be commensurate with the type of game we're going to have to play in the playoffs. And I'm not so sure beating the Bears isn't going to be on a par with beating our first playoff team. So should we get it done, I think we're going to head into the playoffs with nothing to lose and a kind of a dangerous team. So hopefully they get it done. It'd be a lot of fun if they do.
Well, you preempted at the beginning of that there, Dad, kind of what I wanted to ask about in terms of the decision making down the stretch. We've seen Matt LaFleur decide to stick with Joe Barry and nearly have a mutiny on his hands, it seemed like, with some of the things that were coming out on social media. We have Jair Alexander anointing himself captain. Yes, Ja, sunglasses man over there. And we had Devondre Campbell and his antics and so forth as well. And we saw it come to a head with the suspension of Jair Alexander, which to me felt like the organization sticking their neck out a little bit. If that backfires, I mean, there's a chance we're coming on the podcast today. Yeah, nice voice. We're coming on the podcast today and calling for Matt LaFleur's job. What do you think about the decision there, Schmitty and Dad? We'll get your thoughts too in a moment.
Griffey, I had a firm belief that we went as Jair went. Our defense, if we had him on playing man to man on any wide receiver in the league, that we had a chance. You can scheme around a guy like Jair. I've been talking about it the last 2 years. I absolutely love what he brings to the team. There was a real problem. There was a festering issue in the locker room, and I I think with the decision to have Jair sit out was absolutely correct. If you watch the Jair today, he didn't have these things on. He didn't have the hater blockers on. Okay, uh, I I firmly believe that Jair was genuine in saying, he's going to be more serious in his press conferences. I think he straightened up, and I think that's at the hand of both Matt and Goody. They're taking this team on a path, Griffey. You have such a young football team. You can't have a leader like Jair stray from what they're trying to accomplish in the long term. And when you bring the team together, you make a tough decision like that, and thankfully, to Gar's point, you get to beat up on a team that you thought you might actually be in a dogfight with, and you have a performance like you did. Okay, you galvanized the team. You brought everyone together. I didn't think that we had the cojones, I certainly to do this, and neither did Jair. Jair, truthfully, he thought he was going to get fined, and that was going to be the end of it. Matt put his foot in the ground and said, "You can't act up like this. I wouldn't allow you or anyone else to act outside the team. You have to. We beat as one." And so I was certainly impressed by that. The only one, maybe Griffey, that I let stray a little bit is our friend number 12, but that's a conversation for a different time. Uh, really glad to see where this team has come. We just talked previous segment about where we were and how far we've come, and I think that if we get into the playoffs, that you can look back and this little part, this week of the season leading up to the Vikings, and saying, I think they got it right in making one of our leaders bring him back to earth a little bit. Jair didn't have those white Prada shades on that I love so much, and we're like I said, we're better for it. Very happy. Now we go. Now you put him in and you let him be the leader that he is, and we try to win a football game on Sunday.
Well, this won't surprise you guys, but if I'm running the crew, 12 better toe the line or he's out of here. Getting rid of that guy, ship him out to New York. 10, 4, 15, those guys can do as they wish, but 12 better toe the line. Dad, what were your thoughts on the decision making there, and then we'll jump in and talk a little Bears.
I'm just getting a little tea bag for my ayahuasca tea here to sip that down so I can come up with an answer. Oh, I'm kind of going dark here. I saw Jair in the newspaper with no sunglasses on. I couldn't even hardly recognize him. He's a good-looking guy. He looked buttoned up, straight-laced. He talked like a fine young gentleman. And I certainly, as you know, I called 1265 last week because I was so concerned about what we were doing management-wise. And I don't know, maybe Matt LaFleur and Mark Murphy are playing chess while we're playing checkers. I never would have thought this was the way to do it. I would have thought the way to do it would have been to let Joe Barry go a couple weeks ago and keep Devondre Campbell and Jair Alexander on your side. I guess we can debate that. We'll see what happens in the offseason, but you certainly can't not appreciate that it worked for Matt LaFleur. His strategy worked. He told Jair, this is the way it's going to be. You got to toe the line. You got to respect my decisions as the head coach. And you can see the proof's in the pudding. I mean, Jair seems like a changed man. I don't know if you watched that interview. And did you see Devondre Campbell on the sidelines when Isaiah McDuffie got his concussion? Campbell was out on the field. He was clearly concerned. Schmitty, I'm just with you. I feel this team coming together, and I'm kind of amazed. I'm kind of halfway befuddled. It's like the math problem. Show me your work. How did you get there? LaFleur, how did you get there? I have no idea. So there, I think we have to save a little bit of a chance, a little bit of a percentage here that there's something going on in there that we don't know about, that LaFleur has his finger on the pulse. And I'm really happy to feel like it's working for him, because I felt like he was losing it and maybe he had to go. And I didn't feel good about that, because I love the way he coordinates an offense. I love the way he's developed his young quarterback. So if he's holding this team together, the only thing, Schmitty, I'm not signing up for another 3 years of Joe Barry. You might get me to sign up for a 1-year extension if he takes us to the. He's only getting 3 years if we win the Super Bowl, and let's not get carried away with ourselves. But at any rate, I give Matt LaFleur and Mark Murphy kudos for pulling off what they've pulled off. I'm not sure how the hell they did it, but it sure does feel like the team is coming together. You got the young guys respond. Think of how those young corners and the defense responded to what Matt LaFleur put in front of them. And is it amazing what Jordan Love can do when you get some 3-and-outs and give him the ball 2 or 3 times in a row? I mean, I think that's going to be the Bears game. If you can give him the ball a couple times in a row at different points of that game, watch out, because that offense is clicking right now. So at the moment anyway, it surely feels exciting to be a Packer fan.
Schmitty, you spent a heck of a lot more time in the Chicago area than I have. I have my roots here in Western Wisconsin. I could tell you a thing or two about the pulse of Viking fans at any given time and how they interact. Well, what do you have to say about Bears Nation in general? And then I want to check in with one of your good friends here and his thoughts about this matchup coming up. But can you give us a little preview on that for maybe our Western Wisconsin listeners that don't interact with these folks too often?
Well, let me tell you, Griffey, before I went to La Crosse, Wisconsin for a little college uh, to get my degree, it
That's
is
6
always
years of your life, right?
best. Yeah, maybe 8. I forget how long it was. It seemed like forever. Uh, Growing up as a kid in the suburbs of Chicago, it has always been Packers Bears. That's the most meaningful rivalry in all of football. 2 iconic franchises. My first football game, my dad took me. I had to have been outside of the Lambeau celebrations when we won the Super Bowl in the '90s. My first football game, I believe, was in 2000 or 2001. Lambeau, Packers Bears, and I believe the Packers lost that game. I've watched the Packer game at Soldier Field, at old Soldier Field. it is a scene to behold, Griffey. These two fan bases, they breathe the air that are these football teams. They care so much. Chicago, being that there's abundance of sports teams that you can get behind, everyone beats on the Bears. That is the one heartbeat in that city. They care so greatly about their franchise, and they haven't had that much success. But if you ask people around now that they haven't won a Super Bowl since '85, they care about, can we beat the Green Bay Packers? Lovie Smith, his initial press conference, it's all about beating the Green Bay Packers. Their Super Bowl, as you said, is beating the green and gold, and they get just a fabulous chance to take us out of the playoffs on Sunday afternoon, and that would carry them, that would propel them for going into this next season and the year beyond. You're talking about Justin Fields getting a contract solely based on, can they beat the Packers. It's a meaningful, iconic matchup, and the whole nation will be tuning in.
Well, let's get thoughts from a particular Bears fan, a friend of yours going back quite a long time. Here's Joe Haley.
Well, boys. Week 18 is here. It's among us. First off, I'd be remiss if I didn't wish everyone on the podcast Happy New Year. Griff, congratulations on the fantasy championship. Tyler, thank you for running a tight ship. Mr. Griff, I don't know you, but you're a pleasure to watch on the Packers Corner. I'm going to make this one brief for you guys because I already know what's going to happen. We're going to lose. Time's a flat circle. Groundhog Day is coming a month early, and we're going to lose. And I want to say it's going to be close, but I really don't think so. Last thing I'll say, Fields, I love you, man. You lose this game, I never want to see you in Chicago again. I don't care if it's for charity work. I don't care. I don't want to see you. Draft Caleb Williams. I don't care that he paints his fingernails. It's gonna be a long one. But if they do win, I expect to be on the next pod. Again, Happy New Year. Great show, guys. Keep it up. Enjoy the game and bear down.
Well, I think he's more pessimistic about Justin Fields as a Bears fan than you have been all year, Schmitty. You had drafted him in all your fantasy leagues and so forth. So we called on the thumbnail. I feel a little sheepish after the defense's performance, but I had a big picture of Joe Barry and said the Kingmaker with him next to Bryce Young there. Is he going to be the Kingmaker this week and get Justin Fields that next contract, Schmitty? Or is it going to be like your friend Joe said there? They don't even want him back for charity work in the city of Chicago.
Griffey, are we doing the prediction segment? Is this where we're at now?
Lay everything you got on me.
Oh, good Lord, man. The Packers, Griffey, they have a lot of great things going for them. They now have found their franchise quarterback. Seemingly so, he will take us to great heights in this league. The Packers have a bunch of pluses across the field. They win in a bunch of areas against the Bears. I thought about Joe Barry. I have nightmares about Colin Kaepernick playoff matchups. Can Joe scheme up something against Justin Fields, who, Griffey, this is a football team that's won 4 out of the last 5. They're humming. I might have missed out on the division chance, but hey, if they played till week 28, I think the Bears might have a chance in this, my friend. I think if they did 3 division matchups, we're talking about a Bears title. So I was a little premature, but I think this team come next year, when I make that same bold prediction, and I say the Bears are going to be 13-4 and they're going to win the division outright and take care of business, because I genuinely mean it. I think they have all the makings of a quality ball club, and you really get to propel yourself into the season into the next season when you have an inept defensive coordinator like Joe Barry. Griffey, I already signed the deal with the devil. I'm ready to bring back Joe Barry after a possible Super Bowl run. Okay, if you remember last time, 2011, a great year for us. The Packers won the whole enchilada as a 6th seed. all you need is some momentum. And how, after not beating the Vikings 33-10 at their house, a game that I was absolutely terribly nervous for, and you just look so seemingly hot that you're willing to take on really anyone, maybe with the exception of the Niners, so you wouldn't have to play right away, and you get a good game. You beat the Cowboys on the road, the Lions on the road. You get that momentum. Okay, how could we not be a Super Bowl team? Um, you don't become a Super Bowl team because the Bears beat you 27-20 on Sunday. Your heart is broken into pieces. The kids, that happy family I talked about, we sent them to Washington, D.C., and they were having a good old time. They're in the car, laughing, enjoying life. Well, guess what? They're on their way to Lambeau Field, Griffey. They're making the pilgrimage. They've been doing they did the whole Griswold family trip. They went around the whole entire country watching football games, getting cheerful about the Packers, to come to Lambeau Field. Poor Timmy hasn't been there in his entire life. It's going to be his first time. He's going to be doing the little slide right outside next to the Kohler Hotel. He's going to walk into the stadium, fourth quarter, tears streaming down his face because mommy wants to leave 40 minutes early before the game ends because the Packers are getting blown out. See you next season. It's all over but the tears. I knew it was coming this whole time. Griffey, I live in a world of sadness. And so it wouldn't be any different to have another sad moment, throw it in my satchel as I climb this mountain of life. Okay. It's just another big boulder on my back as I climb this life of mine. Bears win. I'm sad. You're sad. Timmy's sad. Move on.
Well, we'll have a little psychological intervention maybe after the pod is over. I'm a little worried about you after everything I heard there.
Bear down, Chicago Bears. We're gonna fight, fight, fight for victory. Bear down, Chicago Bears. With your T formation, we will sweep the nation. Bear down, Chicago Bears. There
we
you
heard
go,
of
Schmitty.
we heard of the great history of the franchise, of Schmitty growing up in the suburbs of Chicago. Boy, did they do something strange to your mind over there, Schmitty. I can't fault the pick, but I'm going to jump in here ahead of you, Dad. I apologize. But I
No
just have
problem.
a
I
couple
had my
things to
moment.
say. Yeah, and namely, with everything right here in front of us, we've got a great opportunity to cement this season really is a historic one for the first year in Jordan Love's career. This would be a memorable one, even if we just make the playoffs, and this game would cement that. So this is pivotal. The season is going to be remembered largely based upon this game. The playoffs will certainly play some role there if we make it, but this game is do or die in a lot of ways. For the way we'll think about this season for years to come. We've had a few other similar games to that in recent memory, whether it be the San Francisco 49ers in the playoffs, whether it be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the playoffs, whether it be the Detroit Lions to end the season just a year ago. And the problem in all those games is we had number 12 at the helm. We don't have that problem anymore, Schmitty. You're acting as if we have the guy that was going to melt at the biggest moment, and he's gone. Number 10's in town, and the Packers are getting it done this week. The wart has been excised off of our heel, and we are freed, my friend. Dad, do you feel the same way?
I'm just going to say that this is going to be a very tough game. The Bears are going to come loaded for Bear. They are going to be extremely determined up front. If we contain Justin Fields within the pocket, make him beat us from the pocket, and double team DJ Moore and contain their running game, and Rich Biasica doesn't manage to put the wrong guy out there to field a punt, I said right after we beat Kansas City that I would not be picking against the Packers the rest of the year. I had to flip a coin last week to get her done, but I'm going to stay true to my word. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy, and I'm not going to say it's a sure thing, but I think Jordan Love makes a difference in this one, as you kind of said and alluded to. And so I'll put the big green G in front of me. And I think when we analyze the records, we're going to find out at the end that it's a pretty tight thing, and this game may be pivotal in our overall records for the year. So it's going to be exciting, boys, and it's a great season. Going to be a lot of excitement this Sunday. Hopefully, the excitement continues, and we got another podcast next week.
We'll have some tabulating to do on the records, so we'll be sure to get that done before we see you next week. Schmitty, you look like you could be a Bears super fan from Saturday Night Live here. You just got to switch shirts, but you could fit right in with that crew. Get another pull of Sasha's lodged in the lining of your heart, something like that going on for you. Dad, thanks for regaling us with a little Bears fight song. It made up for the lack of quality video we were able to establish today, so I apologize for that, but it came through strong, loud, and clear on the audio front. I want to give you guys a chance to leave us with some closing thoughts as we approach the final game of the regular season. Dad, we'll go with you first.
Well, it's just been a terrific season in my mind. All of the things that we talked about at the beginning, could we see the development of a quarterback that gives us hope? And I'm glad to see Schmitty's jumped on board. Last week he was talking about a 5-year contract, and I said, I'll see your 5 and raise your 5. And I heard today that he's ready for 10 years. So it certainly looks to be headed in that direction, which is just fantastic. I think the thing about our quarterback, beyond his obvious talent and skill, is his demeanor, his humility, his connection with his teammates. And I think he is raising the level of the entire team. He's got a Matt LaFleur and he together. Now you're going to see Devondre Campbell play in this game. Jair's going to play in the game. So we're really going to get a chance to see if right before our eyes this team is growing up. We certainly have seen some growth throughout the year, but now this is kind of the ultimate test. It's been the yo-yo season, Schmitty. And Schmitty's predicting that the yo-yo is going to continue, and he could be right. But hopefully we'll see Schmitty, at home. Now, what's your wife's name, Schmitty?
Melissa.
We gotta get Melissa to get the toasters put away, get the Christmas tree out of the house. Don't fill the bathtub with any water, just in case. But as long as we got all that, then everything should be good. And what a fun season it's been all the way around. Most of the things that we've asked to have happened have happened. We've had a lot of thrills and joy, and maybe, just maybe, we'll have one more.
I think we need a few more precautions for Schmitty. I think I'm going to have him over the house and put him in a straitjacket here for his own good. Schmitty, before we lock you up for the foreseeable future, do you have any closing thoughts?
Certainly I do. Let's thank our ardent listeners. They put up with us week in, week out. They care about us, and we certainly care about them. We've been doing this now for 4+ months. So thank you to our 100+ subscribers that tune
up
into
to
us.
115 as of
115. God bless all 115 of you. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your grandma, your dog, who else. No, it's been a great season. I love that at the beginning of the year. I mean, we predicted 8-9, 9-8, right? I think that's what we were across the board.
I was up to 10-7.
10-7 from Griffey. I think our 8-9 and 9-8 for the two of us. But you don't get that type of season with ups and downs. It's really the NFL, right? Any given Sunday, it really puts you through the grinder as a NFL football fan and your favorite club is in this situation. We get a gift. We seemingly get a gift. To get meaningful football in January, and we get to see how our future star in Jordan Love responds in such a huge spot. Something that we didn't predict. I didn't predict that we would find ourselves in a winning in game. How can you not be? How can you not be romantic about football, Griffey? I thought we go as Jair goes. That's certainly not the case. We go as Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary go, setting the edge. If you can do that, and if maybe you win the turnover battle, maybe little Timmy and mommy and daddy Susie, maybe they get to go home with a smile on their face. But if I know we're going to do one recap pod once the season's wrapped, but I do want to give Mr. Goody his flowers, at least a rose from the bouquet to start, because he seemingly has had a fantastic draft. This rookie class is undeniably one of the best in the league. So bless him, give him a flower or two if you see him in the atrium this weekend. Maybe give Mark Murphy a little elbow in the side. I don't know. I don't know how much he's responsible for the good of our team anymore. But nonetheless, thankful for the Packers Corner. Thankful for our listeners. Go Pack.
It's been a heck of a regular season. I want to thank Joe Haley for his thoughts on the Bears. You know, Joe, I hope your quarterback has painted nails next year because it would mean, in all likelihood, that you didn't get it done this week. But I do appreciate the thoughts. Appreciate you guys bearing with me for all these 18 weeks now, and I look forward to having hopefully a couple more. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night, guys.
Love you
Happy
guys.
New Year.